Welcome back to another monthly movie reviews. I'm Hunter, and this time we'll be looking at some newer films from 2024, some older films, and some independent ones. Let's waste no time. Argylle is Matthew Vaughn's new action movie, and it is clearly a Matthew Vaughn film, as his style is all over, but it feels like he took his tendencies and dialed it up to 11. The plot follows Bryce Dallas Howard as she plays the character of Ellie Conway, a cat lady who is the writer and creator of a spy book series called Agent Argylle. However, while getting writer's block in the ending of her new book, she finds herself getting mixed into a real spy mission with real spies, where her knowledge as a writer helps her navigate this adventure.
Oh my god, you're Ellie friggin' Conway.
Author of Argylle series, Ellie Conway!
I am such a fan.
Oh yeah? What is it you do?
Espionage.
Would you sign my book?
Here we go.
And I think Bryce Dallas Howard plays this role extremely well. She's like this fish out of water that has to use her wits and research of spies and locations to stay alive, and I believe she's a writer who put herself in a solitude life by choice, so it gives her cat lady persona less of a desperate, lonely vibe to it. Not only does she pull this role off, but she looks damn fine in the process. She apparently gained 30 pounds for the role in Black Mirror, but after years of being in Jurassic World films, she is now standing up to Hollywood and saying she won't be forced to lose weight for roles. And I'm glad that Matthew Vaughn was more than fine with her having her natural weight for this action film. Not only is it healthier for her, but I think she looks better than she ever has in any film, so clearly it's working for her. The cast isn't just stacked with having Bryce Dallas Howard, but they also have Bryan Cranston, Samuel L. Jackson, and motherfucking Sam Rockwell. I love Sam Rockwell in anything he's in, so I'll be a little biased anytime I see him, but after this film, I better see Hollywood making him a leading man in a lot more movies. He gets his time to shine in animated movies, but I want to see him in more live action films where he's a prominent character. Of course, he gets his chance to dance many times in this movie, as that's his thing as an actor. He always wants his characters to have a dancing scene, which always gives his character a bit of a charm, though even without a dancing scene, his character that he plays of Aiden Wilde is so much fun, because even though he's the good guy spy that runs around with Ellie throughout the film, he is more like if John McClane from Die Hard was a spy. He's human, he gets his ass kicked, and the fights are messy, which is funny, and it contrasts to the perfect James Bond spy type character in Ellie's books. Though just because your cast is stacked with famous names doesn't mean that all of them try, and I'm looking at you, Samuel L. Jackson, when I say that. I don't feel like any performances that he's done lately have been engaging or genuine. I'm shocked that he didn't say, go do some white girl spy shit in this movie, as he feels like he's the exact same as he was in the Marvels. It doesn't help that his character is in one location the entire movie, so he barely interacts with the main characters, and he never directly interacts with any of the three villains. The film is quite entertaining for the first half, and Matthew Vaughn even tries to subvert our expectations by having Ellie having flashes and hallucinations where she mixes up real life with her fictional book. She keeps seeing her fictional character of Argylle in place of Aiden during high stress situations. This is a fun aspect to have. I do find that he misses the mark though with the action slightly because of this, as the action that happens in the fictional book seems to be more realistic than some of the fight scenes that happen in real life. This is explained though because the twist on the genre isn't that she's mixing fiction with real life, but that fiction was real life the whole time. Ellie isn't a spy novelist, but an actual spy who became a sleeper agent after a near-death experience in the field. Once this happens though, I feel like the movie completely loses me. You're introduced to secret masters, people who live in castles who keep the deepest spy secrets, and you get fighting scenes that are practically dance numbers, which again, are fun and visually pleasing, but it pulls you out of the movie as you start to realize that this is the world's norm and not just fantasy action in the book as previously established. And because her being a sleeper agent, who used to be Sam Rockwell's partner before an explosion that nearly killed her, is now the explanation of how she knows all the spy stuff, they then spend the rest of the film swerving away from the original plot even further as they explain how she became a sleeper agent. The film is definitely too long, being over 2 hours, and it feels long as they keep introducing new characters and plot points more than 80 minutes in. It doesn't help that the movie has 3 villains, and Matthew Vaughn feels the need to give them all their own ending, and death scenes, but it drags out the film for the last 30 minutes, and it's just pointless action. By the time that I got to the third villain had to defeat him, I literally flung my arms in annoyance in the middle of the theater. Not to mention this film does what Family Plan did, and a lot of these recent action films have been doing, is have a cute mascot. This movie's cute mascot being Ellie's cat, and just like the baby in Family Plan, the cat is never funny, and the CGI for it is the worst thing that ever happened in this movie. This film started off promising, with fun trailers and a first act that keeps you at the edge of your seat, but the movie decides to take too many twists and turns in an attempt to subvert our spy adventure film's expectations, leading to the movie to become too convoluted, long, and frustrating at points. I would not recommend seeing this movie, and I hope that the sequel bait at the end of the film is a sad reminder to the people who created it that they failed to make a franchise.
It's time for you to meet the real Agent Argylle.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Don't worry, you won't get far on foot is a movie based on the real life story of John Callahan, an alcoholic who was wasting his life away until he became mostly paralyzed after a car accident. This seems to be a gift though, as he starts to tread on the path of sobriety due to him learning to express himself through drawing comic strips and bettering himself with AA meetings. This film is sad, really sad. You watch a man who hates his life because he has no life ambition, so he drinks his days away, and then you watch him hate his life even more after he loses 90% of his mobility in his body. It does allow the endearing moments to hit hard though, because not only does his character go through something most rather die than live with, but he's not just a character in a story. John Callahan is a real person. Joaquin Phoenix does an amazing job as usual, because he's one of those actors like Christian Bale who completely immerses himself in every role that he plays in. At least for me, when I watch him in most of his roles, I don't see Joaquin Phoenix but the character he plays, and not many can pull that off when they become as famous as him. There are other famous names in the story, like Jonas Hill, who plays Donnie, the head person in charge of the AA meetings, who suffers in his own ways as he deals with being gay in the 80s and the even bigger struggle of Donnie dealing with the AIDS during the pandemic in the 90s. I really like Jones' character as Donnie because Donnie found his way to sobriety by religion, and he is pushing Christianity as the driving force to the green grass on the other side. I'm an atheist myself, so I don't care about Donnie being a Christian, but I do like how in this movie, John sometimes questions Donnie's logic and his faith in religion, but whenever he brings this up to Donnie, Donnie doubles down on his beliefs and tries to convince John that it works, and the movie never tells us if it works or not. It is just telling us that this was Donnie's process and it helped him and others, so even if it doesn't work for you, it does work in some capacity. There are so many biopic movies where the character who's in Jonah Hill's shoes would turn out to be the straight bad guy, but not here. The only famous name in this movie that doesn't work is Jack Black, who plays Dexter, the drunk companion of John Callahan and the driver of the car the night that they were in the accident. It's just when John finally meets Dexter, again 7 years after the accident, and after he's been wheelchair bound, should be an emotional, forgiving scene, and it is kind of. Joaquin Phoenix doesn't pull me out of the film, but seeing Jack Black does, especially in such a dramatic role where he is breaking down and crying from the guilt and resentment towards himself that's built up for the last 7 years. The only other thing that brings this film down, and it's the biggest thing, is the structure. This movie cuts from present day where he's first wheelchair bound, to cutting back in the past before the accident, to going back to the present where then jump cutting to 4 years in the future, but then cutting back to the past. It gets jarring and it seems to be the biggest complaint across the board with this film. I would recommend it, but it is definitely not for everybody, as it's a depressing film that can be hard to grow attached to as they keep cutting to all different times of John's life.
You're such a pain in the ass, John.
You're right on schedule, sweetheart, and I'm glad you're here.
Hey, it's a fellow artist.
Kiss the Boys is the greatest so bad it's good movie. I can't find any clips on YouTube, and I found this movie on Tubi. Couldn't even find a copy to download, so I'll make this quick. It starts off like the Silence of the Lamb ripoff, where you have this female reporter who is sent to get information from the serial killer on the 5 stories of his previous victims, while trying to get the location of his 6th and current victim before it's too late. This movie really follows the serial killer though, as it keeps coming back to the past acts of his murder and the serial killer himself, played by Kurt Sinclair, and Kurt makes this movie the masterpiece that it is, because he's supposed to be this meticulous killer who is playing our reporter protagonist, but he delivers all of his lines like he's this grunt for the Penguin or something. He's this Hollywood plastic surgeon who goes off the rails after his wife divorces him and leaves him in his Hollywood home, which looks like it could be a grandma's house in Michigan. He then goes on a killing spree where he tricks men into his home and then drugs them, locks them in his basement, and then mutilates their bodies. It's so bad it's good. You'll be entertained immensely with your friends and making fun of this movie. It's so hilarious how poorly made it was, and the quality of the camera is terrible even for 2006, with acting that's even worse. Costumes are t-shirts and hats like they use for the FBI wardrobes, and set pieces that are supposed to be luxurious but are trashy instead. The plastic surgeon killer is the best part of the movie, and you can kind of guess what scenes were shot first and what were shot later on, as he is extremely comfortable in some scenes and is actually entertaining in a non-ironic way in one scene, but others his acting is extremely stiff and you can't seem to figure out what type of tone he wants to deliver with his lines. Overall, this film is a masterpiece in what not to do when making a movie, and this film will always hold a special place in my heart. It's free on Tubi, so nobody has an excuse to not watch it. Lisa Frankenstein is the new 2024 movie directed by Zelda Williams and written by Diablo Cody. Lisa Frankenstein was a movie I was really excited for. I'm a huge horror fan, and I'm a huge romance guy, so when I saw the trailer for the film, I thought it was going to be a mixture of 2011's Warm Bodies and the Tim Burton classic Edward Scissorhands. But instead, I just got this baffling movie with themes that are either diluted or I missed in its entirety, and characters that make no sense and are written without any type of arcs.
Your hand? I can't believe you're here. Do you like music? I have the cure. Oh, not that kind of cure.
The lead of the story is Lisa, and she might be the protagonist, but she's not a good person, and she is clearly the villain of the film, which can be played just fine. Lisa is the lonely teenage girl who is trying to recover from her mother's death, but doesn't feel like she's had the time to as her dad remarries to an evil stepmom who comes with this preppy, cheerleader daughter as well. When she finds herself in her lonely estate, that's when her friend from the undead rises, and the two of them start to cause death and havoc around the town. The film takes place in 1989, which is a praise I give Lisa Frankenstein because it lets them have a chance to play this stylized version, going all out with the color schemes, outfits, and hairstyles that give you visuals you won't forget. The poster in itself is beautiful, and I like that intentionally or not, the writing feels a little more 80s too, with them never explaining how this undead zombie, played by Cole Sprouse, is able to come back to life in the first place, or how he was able to connect with Lisa during her graveyard visits while he was dead. Because we don't need to know all these details for the story to work, it's just that this story doesn't work. They try to play the story of this isolated, lonely, fighting against the world type girl who is vulnerable and impressionable and just gets herself mixed in with this undead lover as they start to fall down this rabbit hole of murder that they just can't seem to fix. But it's not that. The movie acts like it's the normal formula. Even with the first kill of the movie, Cole Sprouse murders the evil stepmom in front of Lisa after the stepmom berates her. Because in stories like this, there's usually a simple formula. This is a kill that starts to spiral everything out of control. Lisa doesn't kill her, Cole Sprouse does, but Lisa still feels responsible as she was hiding Cole in her room, as well as brought the damn thing back to life in the first place. But after this kill, she finds out that Cole can use new body parts to fix himself up, and that's when they start to kill people in more of a malicious manner until Lisa comes to terms that what she's doing is wrong and stops the creature and ultimately stopping herself for the betterment of good. At least that's what they should have done, but instead Lisa never comes to this realization. Once she is pushed over to that edge, she never recovers and becomes more disillusioned with killing. This doesn't work, as Lisa can't start as a troubled but normal teen, only to descend into madness as she partners up with her undead creature and then win at the end. What's the moral lesson? If you feel like the world is against you, start killing people? Maybe this can work, but only after it's clear that Lisa is evil and a psychotic mess who needs to be stopped. You think Cole Sprouse, as a creature, would notice that he has become a monster figuratively and literally with the damage that he has done, and he's the one who decides to kill Lisa and himself at the end to save the town. But no, he never learns this lesson either. He is more than fine at killing at the start of the movie and is even more than fine at killing at the end of the movie. He himself learns no lesson and is never used as a vehicle to teach a lesson. It feels like such a waste of a character. The only other prominent character left in Lisa Frankenstein is the stepsister Taffy, played by Lisa Soberano, and she is the best performer in the film, as well as her character Taffy was the best written character. She starts off as a stereotypical ditzy cheerleader type, but once her mom is killed by Cole and Lisa, she starts to investigate more and you see how smart of a character she is and how she is able to deduce what's going on to a certain degree. It was a breath of fresh air in this movie and I immediately grew attached to her, with me even thinking at one point that she was going to be the final girl of the film after Lisa and Cole murdered her boyfriend right in front of her. But no, she is introduced, built up, and brought directly into the plot right before the third act and then never used at all. After her boyfriend dies, she practically just disappears from the movie as she gets in a car and drives away from Lisa and Cole in order to get the police. You don't do that. You have her stay and fight Lisa and Cole as she finds out that her sister, somebody that she trusted, has shattered her world right in front of her. It would have been the perfect way to allow Lisa to fall and never recover as a person, and it allows Cole to become the monster he was reborn to be without ruining the whole story. Instead, during the climax, Lisa and Cole realize that with all the chaos they've created and Taffy on their way to the authorities, that they won't be able to get away with this, and both decide to lock themselves in a tomb as they electrocute themselves in order to be with each other forever. That means they win. The murderous teens who went on a rampage after feeling isolated and rejected by the world, who went on a killing spree murdering classmates and family members, are the winner. Again, what is the moral of this film? If you become a school shooter, you'll live happily ever after? Don't waste your time with Lisa Frankenstein, as the film is all sizzle, no steak.
Lockdown!
I could get the clink for life or the electric chair, but I don't want to die a virgin.
Saltburn is a 2023 film directed and written by Emerald Fennell, and that's really all I'm going to say about the movie. There are some movies that you really just want people to go into completely blind. No trailers, no plot synopsis, no nothing. It's a weird film for sure, and one that you really can't talk about without any major spoilers. Like the film or hate it, it's one of those films that's definitely worth a watch at least once. Load up Amazon Prime and get to watching. I went to see Bob Marley One Love, not because I listen to reggae music, but because I don't. I knew nothing about the artist or the genre except the names. My dumbass even thought Bob Marley was an artist from the 90s, not the 70s or the 80s. But after watching this movie, I can truly say I still know nothing about Bob Marley. He had a lot of kids, he helped Jamaica with their gang wars and unity in politicians, and he got skin cancer and died. That's all I know. That's because this movie only focuses on 4 years of his life, and not even the 4 years leading up to him being famous or the 4 years of him starting his journey of music and fame. He is already famous and making headliners in Jamaica. We watch the 4 years of his life where he is attacked in Jamaica, to his recovery, and his return to Jamaica 4 years after the attack to perform one of his most famous concerts. Bob Marley is living large from the start. Even with his struggles, you don't get that rag from riches you usually see in these movies. Maybe that works for you, but I think the build-up makes the characters more human before you put them on these bigger-than-life stages. You can definitely tell this movie was produced by Bob Marley's friends, families, and admirers, as they put Bob Marley on a pedestal in this movie like he can't do anything wrong. Though doesn't he have all these children because he cheated on his wife Rita multiple times? And speaking of his wife, played by Lashina Lynch, there was no chemistry between her and Kingsley Ben-Adir, the actor who played Bob Marley. And when the crutch of the film is supposed to be their relationship, you have to make us as the audience care about it. Every time they embrace each other, it's a hug. I've never seen a romance that's supposed to be so strong that they never kiss and only hug to express themselves. It just doesn't feel genuine, and that's when they're not fighting. And at the end of the day, despite me trying to care, the movie never gave me anything to connect with. Bob Marley One Love is all plot and no character, with Bob Marley songs spread throughout, leaving a boring experience and one I won't be returning to. Thank you all for tuning in for another one of these monthly movie reviews. I especially appreciate it if you stay tuned till now. I was hoping my wedding scene review would be out by now, but you two keep screwing with me on these copyright laws. But make sure to stay tuned for that and the March monthly movie review to come. Thank you again for watching, and if you like content like this, like and subscribe as it's the fastest way to help the channel grow.
Welcome to MJR Digital Cinemas, your